Travis Wayne Goodsell, the Mormon YouTube employee, was working the morning shift today, purposely aiding and abetting in my assassination. When you assist people who are trying to assassinate someone, you get counted with the same crime. And I've been going over with you, as you are learning for yourselves, and Mormons know themselves. Mormons are evil people. They are murderers. They are criminals. They are rapists. They are kidnappers. They are thieves. They are liars. And if you are a Mormon and you are shocked and you don't understand how you are involved, you need to get the hell out of the church, and you need to get out now. Because they will compromise you. And I can go over several ways in which they've already compromised you if you're claiming to be ignorant about how you are assisting in the crimes and corruptions of the church. And just bring up tithing. And if you don't understand, it's because you do not know tithing is not a donation. Yes, even from Malachi, it's not a donation. They purposely breed us from childhood, from birth, into this Mormon culture of corruption. And so we as Mormons have to be converted out of Mormonism, to recognize that what we are being taught is criminal, is hate. And so, in the news today, Lori Vallow, Mormon, murderer, is now going to be charged with crimes seeking the death penalty for her involvement. And so we need to go over with an update for you on what's been going on. So they get arrested, and they're at a particular court. The other week, Chad Daybell succeeded in getting his case moved to a different county. This was when Lori Vallow had just been found competent, and now you see they're going for the death penalty. Yeah, this is all a sham. You see, when regular people get arrested, they go before the judge and bail is requested, and typically people are able to pay the bail and then go back and fight the charges. Especially if you're wealthy and you can afford a lawyer, you never see the inside of a jail cell. And you always seem to get off as innocent. However, the poor are not so lucky. The poor don't get a bail hearing because they don't have money to pay the bail. And so their lives are instantly destroyed, whether they were guilty or innocent. Instantly destroyed, without a trial, without a verdict. Just accusation is sufficient to destroy a person's life if you're poor. Because the police lock you up in jail. They can call it whatever they want, detention, blah, blah, blah. It's jail. You are being incarcerated, and it even counts towards time served if you're found guilty or plead guilty. And in that process, it's designed to keep you there, to torture you, to extort your life for a guilty plea, so that they can process you and move on to the next innocent victim. And everybody gets paid, except for the victim, whose life is destroyed. And if you are afraid for your losing your job, losing your family, losing your transportation, your home, your reputation, and you cave and plead guilty, it's still on your record, you pled guilty. They will now use that against you in the future whenever they need a patsy. If you just happen to be at the wrong place at the wrong time, they'll just grab you and know that they've got an easy conviction because I've done it to you before. If you don't, they'll just keep you in there until time served, and then they'll go before the judge and they'll say, Your Honor, they've already served their time, we'll drop the charges. Your life's already ruined. You lost your job, you lost your family, you lost your home, you lost your transportation, etc., etc., etc. People who they target, though, beyond this, whom they have a specific hatred for, as in the case of Daybell, Vallow, Brian David Mitchell, they lock them up in a mental asylum. It's not supposed to be called an asylum. John F. Kennedy signed an act which made them change the name to hospital, with not a single doctor working inside. Medical doctor, not PhD doctor, medical doctor. This is where torture is intensified using psychologists and psychiatrists, who are the drug pushers for pharmaceutical companies wanting to do human experimentations. So yes, it is a torture chamber to escalate, to force a confession of guilt. And so Brian David Mitchell, Wanda Barzee, Chad Daybell, Lori Vallow, all refused to confess guilt. In Brian David Mitchell's case and Wanda Barzee's, they couldn't get them to confess. Orrin Hatch, now the late Orrin Hatch, saw to it that Brian David Mitchell would now get tried by the federal courts. So he's reevaluated. All of a sudden he's magically cured of his mental illness, which psychologists all claim there is no cure because there is no cause. When you go into a medical doctor for a pain or some problem, there's a cause. That's what the medical doctors do. They look for a cause. They do x-rays, blood samples, whatever it is that you went in complaining about, they need to look for a cause. Psychologists, no, they have no interest in a cause. They are outward appearance judgers. And they place you in a self-fulfilled prophecy category box. And when they're controlled by the government, you've got Nazi Germany torture techniques that were done to the Jews. And so they were going to lock up Brian David Mitchell in the federal courts, through the federal prison. Wanda Barzee, they were able to convince her to testify against Brian David Mitchell. But she still did some time. She's now free. But they've got her on a short leash, and she will be on a short leash for the rest of her life. That's how the system works. That's what the Mormons up in Idaho did to Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow. And so with Chad, they're going right for the death penalty. With Lori, oh, she's mentally ill. Oh, maybe we shouldn't be so rough on her because she's mentally ill. Who's the other weak? Competent. But in that hearing, or Chad's hearing the same day, they requested a change of venue. They then eventually would get it to a different county. And so I was telling you, it's either because she's going to testify against them, or she's refusing to, and that they're going to go for the death penalty. Both of them. The full extent of the law. So today, sure enough, she's not testifying against them, so they're going for the full extent of the law. Now, ideally, the prosecution would love to have both of them together. The defense, however, don't want that. And since Chad's lawyers were able to get the change of venue, Lori's lawyers are not asking for a change of venue, especially to the same location with Chad. Because then the prosecution would say, well, why don't we just join them together and charge them both at the same time? Nope, defense wants them separated to have separate trials. And if you're unfamiliar with that, I refer you to our former Utah Attorney Generals, Mark Shurtleff and his successor, who themselves were charged with corruption while in office. They had separate trials. They tried to get the actual criminal, and he got away with it because Mormons protect their own. Helaman chapter 6, verse 22 and 23. And then the successor Attorney General was acquitted. And because their whole case was completely unraveled with the vindication of the criminal and the vindication of the successor, they had no case against Shurtleff, therefore. Especially since the FBI refused to hand over documents that would incriminate Shurtleff. Again, the whole system in Utah is corrupted. So, Shurtleff then came back and sued for $1 million in damages for the wrongful lawsuit. But at least Shurtleff's life is ruined. I understand he's divorced now. But I did hear that he thought that the state hospital thing was a great idea to do for his teenage daughter. Again, Mormons are the most evil of people in the human race. It's because they're from the Danites. And so, what you saw today with Lori Vallow is that the torturing was not working. She wasn't going to confess. She wasn't going to flip on Chad. And so they just decided, okay, we're going to go with the death penalty then. Find her competent. Let's go through with this. Ta-da! They've got plenty of evidence that has been already released to the news. These guys are going to fry, thinking they're Jesus' helpers for the end of the world. So, that's what's going on. Don't get fooled into, oh, mentally ill, we need to be nicer to her. No. Psychology is a fraud and is being used to torture human beings. So, yeah, good riddance. If only we can get more Mormons and more high-profile Mormons who are guilty of such crimes to likewise get locked up and get the death penalty.